today I'm only going to go over the 1% rule. And the 1% rule I felt really needed its own video because it is such a simple system, but it does take a little bit of effort to be able to use it properly and to practice using it. So I wanted to be sure that we were covering it in a way that was going to be helpful as well. So let's dive into it. Now, when we talk about analysis paralysis, I mean, I'm sure that we've all had cases where we've been at a restaurant and we've picked what we want to eat, and we got, you know, maybe one or two stragglers that are just turning over everything in the menu. They really can't decide what they want. The waiter or the waitress has come, they've taken the drink order, they've brought the bread or the nachos or the chips or whatever they're bringing, and they'll say they give you a couple other minutes still, and the appetizers are coming, and you kind of want to be polite and wait for these other people, right? But they just sit there and just can't seem to decide, or maybe it's you that can't decide, right? And that begs the question, in our lives or in our business, how long should I really take to make a decision? And the thing is that it's really 1% of the time that the thing or the item or the service is going to be affecting you, or that you're going to need to work to replace the cost of that said thing. And we'll go into that in just a moment here. So as an example, let's go with the question, how long will this have an impact on me or my business, right? So if it's going to be 2 hours, you're going to want to take about 1% of that, which is going to work out to roughly 1.5 minutes. So when you're out at dinner or you're out at drinks and you're only going to be there for maximum of about a couple of hours, less if it's not a very pleasurable experience, right? But we're going to go the average, which is about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So you should be getting that menu and you should be looking at it for a minute and a half maximum and picking something. That's it. And I know it doesn't sound like a ton of time, but really, for most menus, it's enough time, a minute and a half. And again, we don't like making these decisions sometimes because we're not confident in the outcome, or we want something that we really like, or it's other things that we're telling ourselves, right? So that's why we really want to put a time limit on this, and we really want to put a time limit of 1% of its impact for sure. So likewise, for a 2-week vacation, 2-week holiday, how long should you be deciding the details and things of a 2-week holiday? I don't mean planning out every single aspect of every single day, like, day one, we're going to do this, day two, we're going to do this. No, I'm talking about the basic decision of, we're going to go to Disney World or we're going to go to Europe, right? If it's going to be a 2-week vacation, 1% of that time, which works out to be about 3.5 hours, is enough time for you to make that decision and figure out where you're going to go. If you haven't made a decision in 3.5 hours, I mean, it's too long, because you can't spend your whole life deciding or you're never going to go anywhere, right? So definitely, how long will this have an impact is the biggest question that you can definitely answer. Now, in business, you may not have the same ability to do that. I mean, when you build a website, you really don't know how long it's going to have an impact on your business. You might stay with the web host for a year. You might stay with the web host for 6 months. You might stay with it for 3 months. You really don't know. But that is the other thing that you're going to want to consider. How much is it going to cost you? And then to replace that cost, right? So, excuse me, I'm going to use the business example. So, in your business, if you're looking at a service that costs $50 a month, okay, now I always say that you need to give systems at least 3 months before you can say they do or they don't work. You want to give it at least 3 months to say you gave it a good shot. So, $50 times 3 months is $150, right? So let's say, how long does it take you to regain that $150 in your business? I imagine that for a lot of people, it's going to be about a week. I'm just using a week as an example. This is going to be different for everybody. So if it's going to take you a week to recover that cost for your business, then you're going to want to spend 24 minutes making the decision. That's 24 minutes. Okay. So that means that if you've got 3 choices of web hosts, you're going to take 24 minutes and you're going to analyze all the differences between those, and you're going to make a decision. And yes, you can make a decision. And yes, it's important to only have 3 your three main decisions when you break it down like that. You always want to get to the three decisions. You never want to get somewhere and be like, oh, I've got GoDaddy. Oh, I've got Bluehost. Oh, I've got DreamHost. Oh, I've got Zero Host. I've got New Host. I've got Zero Host. I've got Double O Web Host. I've got WordPress Host. No, you don't want to do that. You want to take three choices and you want to spend those 24 minutes, going over those three choices and really seeing which one is going to do the best for you. Now you're going to argue probably, well, how do I narrow it down to three choices? You just get three choices from random. You can choose a review system. You can choose a referral system. You can choose which one comes up most prominently in ads. It doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. So, I mean, if you're always getting referrals from friends or family in your network, stay with that. If you're always getting information by searching it by yourself online and getting the first top results, always do that. Let's make it easy for yourself. Okay, so that goes. So if you're talking about that, it would be about 24 minutes. Now, if you're talking about something in your business or for yourself that costs $2,000, and we figure that, let's say it's going to take you a month to recover from that, it's going to take you a month to recoup that. Okay, basically, right? We're going to say we're focusing on business again, it's just an example. Then you're going to want to take 7 hours to make that decision. That's right, 7 hours to make that decision. So it's really important that you do that, and you'd use the 1% rule, whether that's the 1%, and it always comes down to, the time, how long it's going to be an impact, whether that's how long you're going to have to live with it, or how long it's going to take you to recover the cost that was associated with it. That's the 1% rule in a nutshell. Just remember that it starts with you, okay? And I'm going to give you one last tip before we go here. Actually, I'm going to give you two last tips. So the first tip is I'm going to go back to that 24 minutes for that decision, right? So this is all about you and all about the information you have. You might think you don't have enough information. Your subconscious is constantly processing information. We get so much information, it's insane. We call this information intuition. We call this information ESP. We call this information innate ability to guess or to gut hunch, right? And it's because we've got all the information we need. Every single cell in our body is sending information back to our brain. Every single thing we see is being stored and our subconscious is processing it. Okay. But when we get stuck in our head, it becomes an issue, right? So let me give you an easy 20-second thing you can do when you're staring at those three choices and you still don't know which one to do. And you're going, oh, I could go with GoDaddy because they give me this, or I can go with DreamHost because I don't care about support, they can do this, or I want to go with Triple O Host because they offer it free for 30 days first, right? So you've got all that information. You're still having a problem deciding. You've gone the 24 minutes. Take a deep breath, relax, and I want you to cover your left eye. Cover your left eye. Close your other eye for about 10 seconds. You're going to open your eye and you're going to look at the list. And what that's going to do is this is going to give a signal to your brain, to the left, side analytical part of your brain, to disconnect for a moment and get into more of the creative side of the brain. And the creative side of the brain is more in tune with your intuition. It's more in tune with those other bits of information that we always have. We're just not always consciously aware we have them. And once you've covered your eye, just immediately pick one. Immediately. Doesn't matter. 10 seconds, pick one. And that's going to be the one that you deep down in your core feel the most comfortable with and feel the best about moving forward with. Even if you feel that nagging second doubt of there, you're probably going to take your hand off your eye and you're going to have second doubts. Ignore it. That's the analytical mind trying to drag you back in with its BS, which you can take to mean bullshit or belief system. Both are fine and perfectly valid. And that's the way it works. And the last tip I'm going to give you is it's so important to get over analysis paralysis, to be confident in your decisions. And you're making decisions every single day. So make it easy on yourself. When you get up to brush your teeth, am I brushing my teeth today? Well, of course you are, but just redecide it, reaffirm it, say, yes, I'm brushing my teeth. Then, and do it for things that you do know with too. Am I going to go to Bob's house tonight? Well, no, I got work in the morning. So make that decision again. No, you already knew you weren't going to go. Just make the decision again that you're not going to go. You're reaffirming to your brain every single time you make a decision, even if it's a habit, even if it's something you do all the time, it's making a decision and you'll begin to trust yourself more with those decisions. Which resonated with you the most? Drop a thumbs up if you like this video, and in the comments, let me know which one you liked the most, or maybe you didn't like any of them. Drop me a comment, and we'll see you again in the next video.